Have you ever wondered the difference between accounting and finance? Well, there is a difference, and you'll find out in this interview. We definitely need more Latinas in these fields, but there is something that you might want to take away from this. Apart from the wonderful perseverance that this Latina has, that's one of the traits that I think we all have as Latinas, to persevere and reach our goals. Welcome to AskTheLatina. My guest today is Rosa Estrada Doyle. She's a senior executive in finance over at Walgreens. So I'm really pleased to have her. We're going to learn a lot about her journey. As you know, we don't have enough Latinas in finance. We're underrepresented. So this is going to be a great experience to speak with you. Thank you, Rosa, for being with us today and being my guest. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry.
Well, let's start with where you were born, where you're from, your heritage, and bringing your upbringing. And when did you get this interest for finance? Was it in
Sure.
high school or before that?
Sure. So I grew up in Chicago's South Side in a little village, in a community or neighborhood called Little Village, which is in, like I said, Chicago, close to the Midway Airport. Little Village is predominantly Mexican immigrant neighborhood. And it is, I'm Mexican American, but both my parents are from Mexico. My father is from Michoacan and my mom is from San Luis Potosi. They came to the U.S. in their 20s, and we, grew up in this neighborhood on the South Side, and I attended Chicago public schools my entire life. In high school, I participated in, I was always very good with numbers, and so I participated in a junior achievement economics class, which really triggered my interest for business and accounting and finance. So that's how I was interested in it. I was a first generation college student, went to DePaul University, and initially started with accounting, but then transferred over to finance. And so I started in finance, and I really, really got a passion for it there. And so now I'm a senior director at Walgreens in finance. I manage cost for the company, which is over $20 billion. And I think most people know what Walgreens is, but Walgreens has over 9,000 stores in the US and Puerto Rico. And they also have pharmacies in Mexico, Farmacia Benavides, and also in Chile, Farmacias Ahumadas. So we are a global company. We have, obviously pharmacies all over the world. So.
Wow, that is really interesting. I had no idea about Walgreens being in Mexico and also in Chile.
Mhm.
Wow, that's pretty good. Did they take over like a company
Yes.
there? Oh,
Yes, they're called, like I said, Farmacia Benavides in Mexico and Farmacia Ahumadas, and they were acquired, and so they're part of the Walgreens Boots Alliance global company.
wow.
In the U.S., it's just called Walgreens, right? But in those countries, they're Benavides and Ahumada.
They kept their brand names for obvious
Yes,
reasons. Yeah, that
correct.
sounds good. So, when you were in, were there, well, you're talking about going from accounting to finance. So, you went to accounting and finance for our high schoolers that are Latinas that are kind of wondering, what is the difference? Could you explain?
Sure, sure. So accounting is really around the uh, managing or transactions of the numbers, whereas finance is very much about analyzing the numbers and planning for future numbers. So, one way to describe it is accounting is really about what happened yesterday, and finance is really what's going to happen. So, forecasting, planning, and my job involves, advising and providing recommendations from a finance perspective on which investments to make, what should we spend our money on, what shouldn't we spend our money on, and try to convince our executives to move forward with that.
That really sounds exciting. So, were you when you were in high school, what are some of the classes that you took? I mean, did you take anything that prepared you for going to college? Is there anything?
No, like I said, the only one was a junior achievement economics course. I don't think a ton of schools offer it. In the neighborhood I live in now, they do offer things like intro to business and accounting. In the Chicago public school that I went to, they only offered economics. So, like I said, I took that course, and then when I went to college is when I really started taking more of the business courses and accounting courses and finance courses.
That's great. That's great. Well, in your transition to college, did you have any mentors or anyone to guide you before that, or was it more after, or how was that like?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any good examples of mentors, unfortunately. Like I said, I was a first generation, and
Mm,
I was kind of trying to make it up as I went along, right? And so I did not do so well the first couple of years because it was a big shift from going to high school to college. There was a lot of paper writing, a lot of tests, and so the classes were shorter, and it was you doing more of the homework outside of class. So
mm,
so it took me about a year to get my bearings, but then after that, I really focused on studying harder, and this was it was a shift because I was paying for college versus in high school, it's free and you go, because you have to. I
mm.
really wanted to, move forward and so I had to find my rhythm and was able to, like I said, do very well in especially junior and senior years as I was focusing more on the finance courses.
I can relate to that because I also was first generation going to college. And when I did, I didn't know about finance. I paid my way through college. I
Right.
was fortunate to get a pretty good job at the hospital where my mom worked, and I was earning pretty good. And so I saved enough to go, but I transitioned from community to university
Okay.
to save money. And it was detrimental to me if I didn't have good grades. I didn't want to repeat anything because it's so
Right.
expensive. I'm sure you felt the same
Yes.
way.
Yes, exactly. And I sometimes I wish I had started at a community college to really get that, like I said, my bearings. But I think it worked out for the best being at DePaul.
Yeah, and in going through that experience, were there some opportunities and challenges or things that you had a chance to take? I mean, were there associations and things like that at that time that you could join?
Yeah, there were, and I did take advantage when I could. I did have to, back to our earlier point, I had to work, so I had two jobs through college. I had a job as a law clerk, and then I also had a job at in retail in J.C. Penney. So when I could take, participate in some of these Latino groups. I tried to, but I that is definitely something I recommend for anyone to try because I do think they bring forward more opportunities. One thing that I do regret is, and I see it now today, is any internships. And I did not take advantage of internships because I said, oh, I need, and they paid, but I had a job and I didn't want to lose my job. And I do see a almost like a leg up if you have an internship when you're in college versus just having a job on your resume.
You're right. It's called a catch-22. They always
Right.
seem to like look for your. They got you got the degree, but they're like, okay, where's the experience? They're like, so yeah, it's something that's looked at a lot more now, and
Right.
so great advice. So looking back, what is it that you would do differently? You mentioned a couple of things, but what are some of the things, I guess, that you would recommend a Latina in high school to make sure she does when she's considering going into finance, and especially as a first generation? Because this is great that you're sharing your journey. Because from us, they will learn that it's possible and to keep persevering going forward, and then you're going to make it. So
Okay.
what is it that you would, looking back at yourself, if you were to give yourself your own advice?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing is I took an accounting course and I found it very difficult, and I enjoyed finance more. I do, and I tell this to young professionals now. I wish I would have stuck to both, to do accounting and finance,
Mm.
because in my role I work a ton with accounting, and I think it would be more beneficial if I had both degrees, right? And so I know that's a big, a broad goal, but I find value in both.
Mm.
So that's number one. Number two is, like I said, I did wish I had more time for some of these Latino groups, organizations, and internships, because I do think they open doors, and you learn, some valuable skills, and you meet people, and things like that. So, like I said, I was very focused on, just paying for school and helping my family, and I wish I would have had more of those opportunities, or would have taken the opportunities were there. I just didn't take advantage of them.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's really good advice. That's so true. There's so many opportunities now that weren't around when we were in college. I don't think a lot of these organizations, if they did exist, and I think it's even challenging because I was the president of Mashimba, and people didn't know what Mashimba was. Of course, it's no longer exists now; it's something else. But still, so it's very good to take advantage of those. Now, you have your MBA, so that's great. You went forward. And that's one thing as being president of National Society of Hispanic MBAs, we were charting forward and looking at the statistics that it's hard enough to get them to finish a bachelor's degree.
Right.
And then we really want you to go get an MBA.
Hmm.
Tell us about your experience with that.
Yeah. So getting an MBA was always a personal goal, and in at Walgreens working my way up, they always said, "No, you don't need it. You don't need it." But I did hit about 4 years ago. I did get to a place where I was on a project, and there was a lot of external companies coming in and presenting to us, and I just felt there was so much more I could learn, and not only that, but also refresh a lot of the skills I had learned. And at that time I had been out of college for several years. I won't mention how many. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue my MBA. So it took me 3.5 years. I just completed that back in September. And it was very hard because I have, my full time job, and then I have 5 kids, and so it was hard to do. But I think my team that I worked with at Walgreens was very supportive, and they knew, they would pick up the slack. And but I did feel like every single class I took, I turned around and applied to my job. So I do highly recommend going and getting your MBA. I think a minimum of 5 years out of school, because I know there's some people go right after. I do feel like it was very valuable because I did have all the work experience, and then I was able to connect the dots once I did start taking those classes.
Right, and some of the colleges have the flexibility. You can take it in the evening, and sometimes
Yes.
you find your cohorts that are in the same classes.
Yeah.
I went through mine. There were a lot of our same department cohorts that we were all in the same class after work. But that's good. I'm glad you did that, and that's good that you noticed that applied to your work, and you're able to utilize that. That's very valuable, and also, it gives you another credential
Yes.
for being able to move up the ladder, which where we don't have enough too much Latinas in C-suite, so we really need to move that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's really good. So, do you have any special quotes or anything that resides with you something that really resonates with you actually, and that you would kind of look at and say, yeah, that's something very important that you could provide us?
Oh, I don't have any specific quotes. I mean, I think I always try to be positive, and I think my father always said, work hard and be nice to people, and I think that has been what I try to do at even as I move up in the company, making sure I treat everybody with respect, and do the best I can.
Yeah, I think that that's we have valuable lessons and advice from our parents that are definitely something worth definitely keeping and moving it forward. So that's really amazing. You've got such a great journey that you've had, and now where do you want to go to next from here? Do you have any plans to do something? I know you have 5 kids, so you're busy.
Uh, yes, I mean, I would love to continue to progress in my career in finance and corporate finance. I enjoy what I do, and I would love to, as you mentioned, continue to move forward to head and vice president and even a C-suite.
Yeah, we want to see you there too. And how about your give me your culture, from Mexico and the fact that, there's obviously an extension that you mentioned of Walgreens in Mexico and in Chile. Do you get a chance to work on those projects from a finance standpoint or kind of do some work with them or, or their team?
A little, a little. My focus is in the U.S., but I do also have one of the areas I support is it's called Procurement, where they negotiate contracts with vendors, and we do have our leaders from Mexico on those calls, and we talk through their contracts. They're of a smaller scale compared to the U.S., but I do get to add any value or any input from a finance perspective. And early in my career, it is part of the U.S., but I did work a ton with the Puerto Rico stores. Our Puerto Rico stores for Walgreens are actually some of the most busiest and profitable. And so I was able to really help be their advisor and help them continue to grow their profit. And they were they love numbers in Puerto Rico, and they think they still do. So I was able to experience that, travel there, visit their stores and their distribution centers.
That's really good. And it's interesting you mentioned procurement because I've known of other people that were in finance, Latinos as well, and Latinas that and I think the finance and your accounting really helps in that area. Am I right?
Agreed, yes. And procurement is actually an area that's very much in demand right now, looking for people that can negotiate contracts. And so I think that it's another great field that we're probably underrepresented in. But yes, it definitely helps that the finance, because that's what you have to know, and then you're dealing with the vendors, and they know their finance, and so you have to be very polished and when you're negotiating with them.
That's really great. So here, finance and accounting opens up lots of doors.
It does.
So it's really good. So I'm glad you shared that with us. It's great. And is there any other advice that you would have to? I know you've got 5 kids now, so you probably are looking, probably tell them some of the things that, from your own journey. We always learn some things. And like, I know when I didn't take financial aid, I didn't know about it.
Mm.
I didn't know about the scholarships. And now I just push my son who's going into engineering, here's scholarship, here's this, join these associations. And financial aid is the next thing we're looking at because it's so expensive to go to engineering and or anything college wise. And we still have sometimes some high school kids that probably are worried about that.
Yeah.
Uh, so you probably are guiding your own children. I'm not sure when they're going to be ready for college or what their age ranges are. What are their age ranges for 5? What
Oh,
range
wow.
are
Yeah. So my oldest is actually 26. He has a
you look
college
great
degree.
for having a
Thank you.
26.
Yes, so he has a college degree from the University of Illinois Champaign, and he also has his master's in accounting there. Then I have a 22-year-old, and he did go to college for a few years, but now is really focused on operations. He works at Chipotle, and that is actually probably one recommendation is Chipotle has a tuition reimbursement program, and so that is an option for helping people get their college degrees. Looking for companies that offer tuition reimbursement. I think Target also offers it. And then I have a 18-year-old. She is taking a gap year right now. She's in Indiana, just and, working. And then my I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. So the 13-year-old is starting to talk about college, and I give him examples of what I do, see if it interests him, and and just answer as many questions as he has. And then my 11-year-old is probably not thinking about it at all, but she's, I would say, probably the smartest of all of them. So, I would love for her to have a career in STEM or finance or any of those careers.
So is it 4 boys and 1 girl? Is that how I
3 boys and 2 girls.
2 boys and girls. That's great. Wow, what a
Yeah.
nice. I like that. That's wonderful. And yeah, so definitely, starting to think about the fact that they can probably learn from each other's experience. Did you have any siblings that you were the first to go to college, but did you have other siblings that you also guided with what your experience was, or was your parents who encouraged you to go to college, or you just wanted to do that on your own?
I think my mom was always very much about, get out of the kitchen, go study, go to college, right? And so, when I got older, I was like, well, I need you to teach me how to cook, and so I did learn eventually, but she really was focused on, advancing my career in university. My younger brother, Junior, is 4 years younger, and he also ended up going to DePaul and getting an accounting degree. So I guided him through that. And then my younger brother did start college as well, but now I think he didn't love it, and so he's now working at a distribution center. So, and he really enjoys that that job. I think that's the other thing is, like, maybe college is not the answer for everyone. As long as you find a career you're passionate about and that you can progress in, I think that's also important to know.
Yeah, nowadays there's a lot of need for people to work in vocational. There's vocational schools for getting all these trades, and we need them. So it's
Yes,
both, good at getting a college degree and going forward for these fields that we're underrepresented, but we also do need a lot of people in those areas that, that's very important. So,
agree.
well, thank you, Rosa. I really enjoyed learning so much about you, and I know you inspiring, our young Latinas that are going to listen to this about your experience. And definitely, I learned a lot about the difference between accounting and finance. I never, it's like I always bow down to my CPA. I'm not worthy. She's so, it's just like admire that. So that's really great. And definitely, and finance and accounting is very important for business too, as you become an entrepreneur. So, yeah, it's definitely key. So I really appreciate your time and sharing your journey with us. And I wish you the very best. And we hope to see you in C Suite.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for doing this for Latina high schoolers, because I know I would have taken advantage of these types of podcasts.
No, I really want to make sure we leverage every technology and every opportunity that we have today to really reach them, and that's so important. Yeah, it's my strive to see these numbers go up, and hopefully, we will make it together. We all continue sharing our journey. I'm sure we will inspire them, so they don't feel like they're the only. They don't see anybody like us,
Right,
and that's the most important part. So, well,
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this concludes our episode with AskTheLatina. I appreciate you joining us, and I hope that we'll see you in the next one.